actually is the lead play in our offense.
We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Flying solo here, a little surprise afternoon show. One thing I wanted to do was hop on here when the guys wasn't on and do a quick mock draft. I know that we had gathered some information on everyone else's mock draft, and we had kind of compiled that into a screen grab here that we can pop up on the screen. Obviously, we had Jacob do a mock draft, Carly do a mock draft, Emilio and Tim all using the PFF website. So what I thought I would do, since mine got lost in the shuffle at some point, I can't seem to find it anywhere. Of course, you guys know we've done 1,000 mock drafts on this channel, right? So this is going to be kind of my most up-to-date mock draft based on my board currently, as well as just information that's kind of changed here lately. As I'm sure you guys and gals are well aware, as we get closer to the draft, no matter which website you use, the information is constantly changing, right? They're using, like, say we're using PFF, they're using PFF's big board. And as it's constantly evolving, like one example, JJ McCarthy kind of rising up the draft board, you'll probably see him taken a little bit early now in the more recent mocks. And we'll probably do one more, as far as me, personally, we'll do one more before the draft actually gets here. So I know we've got a few people that wandered into the chat here. Good to see everyone. I know we got Adam in the house. We got Joe G. We got William. And we got M. Smitty. Again, this is going to be kind of short one. I'm going to try to keep it to 30 minutes and see if we can get through a 7-round mock here real quick, just so I can get my mock draft into the into the information database, and we can see, is there any other players that we're taking, more than we already have, if you will. Like, for example, one of the reasons we did this exercise was to see how many players were taken multiple times. That's what the numbers represent. Now, there's a couple we left off, which we'll update later. But you can kind of see some of the names that pop. Frank Gore Jr. was one that got taken 3 times. Max Melton got drafted 3 times, right? And typically when you do these exercises, when the draft actually gets here, you look up and say, man, like when Lucas Van Ness was drafted, I remember we had mocked him several times, right? So the more you do this exercise, as the information evolves and becomes more up to date, you'll find some familiar names, right? So that's kind of the whole purpose. I want to add my mock into the mix here. So before we do that, just want to give a quick shout out to everyone on Patreon. It's absolutely lighting up. You guys and gals are awesome. I want to give a special shout out to the newest members. We got Allison, we got Ron Sandville, we got Doug Pointer, and Joe Stadler. Appreciate y'all jumping on board with the PTA posse over there on Patreon. You guys are going to be entered into the contest when we give away autographed memorabilia. We're going to be giving away merch, all kinds of cool stuff. And it's really cool how we've got the chat set up in there as well, where we can we're compiling a list right now of the posse of prospects that are kind of under the radar, right? It can be someone who's at the top of the board or close to the top, but we're like, hey, who's the guy that you would kind of stand on the table for? Like, I really like this prospect. And we're compiling that list, and then we're going to talk about it. Most likely we'll start to dive into that on tonight's show, and then we'll keep that thread going and create other chats on Patreon as well for the, like I said, for the posse. But it doesn't mean we're going to neglect the live chat in here. Obviously, it's the lifeblood of what we do here at PTA, is keeping the fans involved in real time, but just a little added benefit for our Patreon members. We appreciate them supporting us. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go full screen here with the PFF mock draft. I'm going to try to check in the comments from time to time, okay? Just understand I'm flying solo. It makes it a little more difficult to do that, and I would love your all's feedback as this draft unfolds. Again, you're going to see some bad grades because these grades are going to come according to PFF, I'm not going to try to just take the best player that PFF thinks is a good fit, that they think has a high grade. I'm going to try to lean on my cheat sheet from my mock draft board or from my big board, and then also some other information that I really rely on. So here we go. Let's go ahead and crank this thing up. I think I've done everything correct as far as setting it up. I was thinking about trying to steer clear of trades as well. To be honest, I want it to be kind of a true mock, and instead of one that kind of gets off the rails. It's real easy to get into a mock draft, and then obviously you're 3 or 4 trades in, within the first 2 or 3 rounds, right? We're going to try to prevent that. And so here we are picking at 25 for the Green Bay Packers. Man, they're making it tough on me already. At the top of the list, for those of you who are listening on the pod, I'm going to try to paint you a picture of some of these prospects that are available. So it's not just you hearing me talk to the chat. Okay. So the best prospects available right now are Jerzon Newton, defensive lineman out of Illinois. He's the 8th ranked prospect. We got Byron Murphy, defensive lineman out of Texas. He's the 13th ranked prospect. Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. He's ranked 23rd. Jackson Powers Johnson ranked 24th. He's a center out of Oregon. And then Graham Barton, who it sounds like he had a pretty good pro day today. I need to get that information into my draft board, which I think everyone expected that. He's ranked 25th. And then Tyler Nubin ranked 26th. If you'll see here, this database we're using, this roll right here is showing you the average draft position as well. So they're saying Jerzon Newton is being picked somewhere around 23 right now, Byron Murphy around 16, Kool-Aid McKinstry around 30th, Jackson Powers Johnson 24th, and Graham Barton 26th. So this makes it tough, man, because when you want to stick to the board and say, okay, I'm drafting best player available, hell or high water, obviously that would be Jerzon Newton. Not a huge need for us, although many of us are talking about, hey, who's going to kind of carry on that interior defensive line role if for some reason they do move on from Kenny. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk, and I think Tom Silverstein has talked about Kenny Clark could be back, right? It looks like they may be open to a contract extension there. But, guys, you remember, we were all convinced that Aaron Jones was coming back, and they let $1 million kind of get in the way of that, really. I think the final word came out that they offered him under $4 million too. So that was like, maybe it was $1 to $3 million. They felt like they were off as far as what Minnesota was willing to pay. But just another example of, just because we're hearing rumors someone's going to sign doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come to fruition, right? So you got to trust the board. You got to go best player available. It's going to be hard for me to pass up on Jerzon Newton here. And the reason being is Jerzon Newton is my best defensive lineman. According to my draft board, the latest version of it, it will shift a little bit. He's the 14th ranked prospect. They've got him at 8. Just hands down the best defensive lineman in this draft. Now, listen, Byron Murphy is good too. He really is. This scenario here will be a perfect scenario to trade back, and it's tough because I didn't want to trade back any, but man, there's so many prospects here that I would be okay with taking right now. If I make myself stick and pick, though, the value is just too great for Jerzon Newton, man. It really is. I'm going to go interior defensive lineman, Jerzon Newton, and seems like let's kind of lean on the chat here a little bit and see what everybody's saying. Keep in mind, no offense, everyone. I'm going to make my picks, okay? But I do want to hear what you guys have got to say, okay? Let's see here. R. Showers in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says the Duke defensive lineman is nice for where most have him ranked. Let's see here. R. Showers says JPJ is needed, man. Jackson Powers Johnson. If the Packers pulled the trigger at 25 on Jackson Powers Johnson, I would be totally on board. I would be on board with Graham Barton. I would be on board with Kool-Aid McKinstry, Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton. Tyler Nubin's another one. He's starting to creep up a little bit as far as average draft position. He's now on the 37 mark. It doesn't mean it's going to hold true in this draft, but again, we're not picking again until 41, so we're probably going to miss out on the best safety in the draft here in that regard. Let's just scroll down a bit, though, and just see who else is here real quick. I want to make sure that, so Cooper DeJean is definitely gone, right? But there are some studs here in this spot. Let's see what else the chat says. Joe G says Kool-Aid or Barton. So going the opposite direction from where I'm going, Joe. And both of those, man, will be solid picks, no doubt. Ron Sanville says, man, Barton is too good to pass up, in my opinion. Tough, man. So tough. Coach Lynn in the chat says build the trenches. So I think he'd probably be all right with defensive line or offensive line. Williams says pick what we need, right? That's the tough part, man, because, what's our greatest need? According to me and kind of what I've compiled as our need, our greatest need probably is offensive line. I feel like you need a starting right guard and you need a starting center. Now, many people think that Josh Myers is that guy. The Packers have been very vocal that they think he's that guy, right? Man, it's tough. So I've got him potentially needing a starting center, a starting guard, and then another backup offensive lineman, kind of that swing tackle type, right? If you get a tackle, someone that can then unseat Rasheed Walker or maybe play right tackle instead, and you kick Zach Tom to right guard, you're still filling that hole there. Now, on the other side of things, cornerback, right? Keyshawn Nixon, obviously they're paying him $6 million per. The main thing is kick return. If you get a slot corner like a Cooper DeJean that can step in and be better than Keyshawn Nixon right off the bat, then you take him. I just don't see him in this regard right now. So I think we do need an outside corner too. I'm not sold on Eric Stokes at all. But linebacker is another huge need. The problem with linebacker in this spot, as we look here at the positions, is linebackers tend to come a little bit later, right? They've got their best linebacker ranked 27th, average draft position 40th. Edgerrin Cooper is ranked 62nd. He's in the 52 spot. Peyton Wilson, by the way, was the number 1 linebacker. The number 3 linebacker, which I actually have as my best linebacker, is Junior Colson. They got him at 66. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at 88. So you could see you could probably get a linebacker with that second-round pick. So we're going to stay away from linebacker and go back to best available. Again, I know it's not the popular pick here, but the distance between Jerzon Newton. Let's do this. Let me look at my board, my cheat sheet real quick. And let's see. Jerzon Newton, I've gotten the 14 spot, right? According to them, Jackson Powers Johnson and Graham Barton would be the next best thing, right? So if we look at Jackson Powers Johnson, I've got him 21 on my board. So Jerzon Newton is 7 spots ahead of him, 7 spots higher, right? So if you trust the board, you go best available. It would be Jerzon Newton when it comes to Jackson Powers Johnson. Now, when you look at Graham Barton, I've got him at 23. Same rule applies there, right? So Kool-Aid McKinstry, let's take a look at him. I've got him in the 18 spot. Jerzon Newton is 14th. That's one of those situations there where maybe Kool-Aid would be in the same tier. And we talked about that with the horizontal board earlier on Good Morning Lambeau. Now, if you got 2 players that are in the same tier, you're willing to reach a bit for one that might have just a slightly lesser grade on him, but still in that same current tier of talent, right? So with that being said, and based on the needs, I don't want to reach for either of those offensive linemen right now because the value just isn't there. Jerzon Newton is hands down the best prospect. What it comes down to is Jerzon Newton at 14 on my board or Kool-Aid McKinstry at 18. So what do you think, chat? If you had to pick between Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama, or you had to take Jerzon Newton, defensive lineman out of Illinois, which would you take there? Let's see what everybody in the chat thinks. I'm going to let y'all kind of sway me a little bit because I am okay with those 2 picks. To me, I got it narrowed down. Jerzon Newton or Kool-Aid McKinstry is who I'm thinking here. Let's see. R. Showers in the chat says Kool-Aid is premium position. Cornerbacks drop way off after he's gone. It's a great point. We've seen it so many times doing these mocks with Jacob and Tim and Carly and Emilio. When once that first round's gone, it's like, oh man, we missed on our corners, right? Let's see what the chat. So that's Kool-Aid there. M. Smitty says Newton. Prince says Newton. That's 2 for Newton. Look at here. Robert says Newton. That's 3 for Newton. It's 3-1. Williams says Kool-Aid. So it's 3-2. Newton 4-2. 5-2. There you go, man. Looks like Newton ran away with it. 5-3. All right. We're going to roll with it. We're going to go Jerzon Newton out of Illinois as our first pick there. So there's that. Now let's move on to the second round. We're in the 41 spot. Again, guys, in that situation, I would love to have traded back. We had a trade. I just don't want to explore that right now. I want to make myself stick and pick here. I really, really do. So I agree, Robert. No way he would be there, but there's no point in doing any mock drafts if that's the angle we're going to look at it, because every single mock draft, someone says, oh, there's no way that guy's going to be there, right? Until they are. So I'm not suggesting he'll be there either. I have a hard time believing it, but I guarantee you if he is on the board, he being Jerzon Newton, Goody's running that card to the podium. I promise you that. So, all right, here we go. 41. So we got our defensive lineman of the future there. We're going to put him next to Kenny for a year. If we sign Kenny, great. If not, it's going to be the Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, and Jerzon Newton show, which I feel a lot better about. And you're going to free up over $20 million in cap with Kenny Clark testing free agency. So that's how that's going to kind of fall into place. All right, we're at the 14-minute mark, so I'm going to have to go rapid fire if I'm going to keep this under 30 minutes. I'll try to check back with the chat. You guys talk amongst yourselves, and I'll look back here in a minute and see how pissed off y'all are with the picks I make. So that's how we'll roll here. So at 41, the best prospects available are Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota, linebacker Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State, center Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, Mike Sainristil out of Michigan. He's a cornerback Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia, Braden Fisk, defensive lineman out of Florida. So let's kind of look at some of these top picks here. You guys know I'm big on Tyler Nubin. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if his value comes back around full circle and people, kind of jump back on board with him. Again, the combine and the pro days are so polarizing. They really are. When you go watch the tape of Tyler Nubin, man, he just fits that box safety. He's got the build, kind of remind you of a little bit of a Cam Chancellor from the Legion of Boom days. Not suggesting he's going to be as good as Cam, but it's pretty cool that they both had a very, very similar RAS, right? So let's see what we got here. Best available Tyler Nubin. I've got him in the 28 spot, okay? On my board, he's the 28th best prospect. We would be getting him at 41. Peyton Wilson. I know many people like Peyton Wilson, right? I've got Peyton Wilson at 63. So that would be a bit of a reach for me right here with Peyton Wilson as my board currently sits. Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia, I've got him at 35. So right now it's between Tyler Nubin at 28 and Zach Frazier at 35. Let's see, Mike Sainristil, I've got him at 57. So that's no match. Kamari Lassiter, he is not in my – no, actually he is. I've got him at 52. He's above Sainristil on my board. Braden Fisk, defensive lineman. We're not even going to look at defensive lineman because we took one when many people would think, I probably wouldn't take one this year, right? So looks like the chat's saying Frazier or Wilson. Let's see here, Chris Braswell. So for me, it comes down between Tyler Nubin, believe it or not, Tyler Nubin and Zach Frazier. And for Tyler Nubin, I think he would be a starter day one. He's 28th on my board. We're getting him at 41. His average draft position of lately is 37.9, so he definitely won't be there when we pick at 58. So I'm going to fill a starting role here. I'm going to go Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota. All right, so we got that need filled at the safety position, which I feel like we need a starter and at least one backup there at the safety position. If we were just going strictly off of needs. So here we are at the 58 spot. Look at Braden Fisk sitting there. Now, see, this is what sucks about mock drafts. It absolutely sucks. We could have gotten Braden Fisk instead of Jerzon Newton in the first round. We could have waited and got – if you had told me in the first round, hey, Clayton, don't take Jerzon Newton because Braden Fisk is going to be there at 58, I would have been like, I'm on board with that. But you just never know, right? And again, his average draft position is 46.6, right? So when you get to looking at D-line, it gets a little tough in that regard. So we still haven't filled corner, and this is a perfect example of what we talked about. When you stick to the board, best prospect available, you find yourself this year missing out on those top-tier corners. And then next thing you know, you're in the 5th round and you haven't drafted a corner. But I'm definitely not going to reach to draft. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going best player available based on the needs without reaching a tier. All right, that's kind of the goal here. So Braden Fisk on my board, he is not, believe it or not, he's not even in the top 7 that I have listed here. Let me go to the next page here. I know he's on here somewhere. There he is. I've got him in the 87 spot. So that would be too much of a reach for me, even if we did need defensive line. Jatavian Sanders, not interested in him. You got Rook Ora. You're going to have to start to look by position. Here's Christian Haynes. All right, let's look at Christian Haynes. They've got him ranked 64. Again, we're picking at 58. And if I look for Christian Haynes, he is my best guard in the draft, believe it or not. Now, keep in mind, I've got Graham Barton listed as a tackle, although I know some people think his arms are a little too short. Graham Barton would have been in the 23 spot. I got Christian Haynes in the 30 spot. I really like Christian Haynes here, but also you got Junior Colson, right? Junior Colson is not going to be there later, guys. He's not going to be there later. He is my best linebacker, too. I've got him in the 50 spot. So if we're comparing overall grades, you're going to go Junior Colson in the 50 spot, right? And Christian Haynes in the 30 spot. It's not even close, man. It is not even close. We got to go Christian Haynes. And again, if we had traded back with that, with the first couple picks, we would be sitting pretty with multiple picks, being able to fill all these voids. I'm just going to make myself stick and pick, though. All right. So according to my board, I wouldn't have minded getting Chris Jenkins too, who's available here. I wouldn't mind getting him if I'd known he was going to be on the board later on as well. You got Amagaji sitting there at 49. But again, Christian Haynes, 30 on my big board. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pull the trigger. God, it's so tough though, man, because you need that. You need that other linebacker, and it's a weak linebacker class. Junior Colson is definitely the best available. I want to trade back so bad right now, guys. It's driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. I'm going Haynes. I'm sticking to the board. Coach Lynn there talking about Nubin too. He said, good pick. Nubin is coming back up boards again. It kind of feels like that, doesn't it, Coach? It really does. R. Shower said Nubin's speed, not that it did Savage a lot of good. Ain't that right, man? We're like, oh, no, Nubin's slow. You know, look at how fast Savage was. Okay, how did Savage pan out, fellas? Right? So I agree, Showers, the linebackers are weak this year. So I got to stick with the board, guys. I'm going with the 30th overall prospect, and that's going to be my boy Christian Haynes out of Connecticut. He's going to fill that right guard spot. So your offensive line is going to be pretty well set, with the exception of Josh Myers. And again, it doesn't matter what we think, right? It matters what the Packers think. And obviously, they're still pretty big on Josh Myers. So let's go Christian Haynes, right guard. So we have literally gotten two starters, in my opinion, right? And we got a defensive line that's probably going to compete for a starting spot too. You all of a sudden look at your defensive line, and like Coach Lynn was saying, build the trenches out. Someone else was saying build the trenches out there in the chat too. When you look at it, it's like that's what the good teams have been doing, is building within the trenches. So you got to treat that, at the forefront for sure. All right, here we are at 88. So we're at pick 88. We've also got pick 91. It's going to get interesting. Best prospects available: Malachi Corley, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. We got Trey Benson out of Florida State. He's hands down my best running back in this draft. We do need a running back. It's just how bad do we need it, right? Cam Kinchins, safety out of Miami. They've got him in the 87 spot. I've got Cam Kinchins at 82. And again, we're picking at 88. That would be good value. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. They've got him in the 88 spot, linebacker out of Clemson. I've got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 75 spot. So that would be really good value right here. That's kind of my front runner up to this point. You got Christian Mahogany, center. I don't have him in my top 100. Let's see what other center is sitting there. Cedric Von Prawn. He is number 60 on my big board. So here we are faced with 15 spots of difference. Cedric Von Prawn at 60, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at 75. That's tough. That's really tough. Who else is right here that might? Let's see where Pooney is. Offensive tackle Pooney. I've got him in the 53 spot, so that's another one. I just feel like we got to go linebacker here, man. We really do. It kind of matches up, right, with the need. And the way the draft's fallen, we need a starting linebacker, in my opinion, two backups. Notice I didn't say two starters, and I understand we're going to be playing a 4-3 defense when we're in our base defense, but the problem is we're going to be in nickel probably somewhere between 70 to 80% of the time. So I'm only treating two inside linebackers as starters. There's nothing worse than spending a lot of money in free agency or spending, high draft capital on a player who's just going to be sitting on the bench. And when you're on defense, the offense is dictating what defense you're going to run. Obviously, you're just matching personnel, So if you're on the offensive side of the ball, you can kind of dictate, okay, we're going to play 12 personnel, or we're going to play 11 personnel. That's the thing that kind of shifted Sean McVay from going from a lot of 12 personnel in his early tenure there with the LA Rams to 11 personnel, because he said he looked over and he said, I looked over and I seen Cooper Kupp on the bench and I thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, I got to get my best 11 out there. On defense, the offense is kind of dictating who you're putting out there, right? So that's why I think you should only have two starting linebackers, inside linebackers, at least when you're talking about how much value you're putting on them. For me, it's got to be Trotter, and it seems like the majority of the chat agrees. Jeremiah Trotter here. I'm seeing a couple different people. Yeah, several people saying Trotter. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Jeremiah Trotter Jr. here. He's going to have kind of that front runner spot there to play alongside Quay Walker in that nickel 4-2-5. Whether he's a will or ends up being a mock. I personally would like to see Quay kind of play mock if that's the two choices. But you never know, man. You get in camp, let them both try out and see. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. might grab the reins and run with us. So I'm going to go Jeremiah Trotter Jr. here at 88, linebacker out of Clemson. All right, so we got our starting linebacker out of the way. Now we're on to pick 91. Trey Benson flew off the board. Malachi Corley, wide receiver, flew off the board, and everyone else is pretty much still there. This is where it gets tough. I don't feel like we should take another safety. You got McKinney. You got Xavier McKinney, who's going to be playing that post safety. You got your boy Tyler Nubin, who's going to be playing in the box that we just drafted. You got your defensive lineman of the future. You got your starting linebacker opposite Quay Walker in that nickel 4-2-5. You got your starting right guard and Christian Haynes, right? So what are we looking at needs? It sucks, but it's corner. Notice you don't see any corners again, right? Jarrian Jones is finally popping up here in the 98 spot. Again, we're picking at 91. According to PFF, that'd be a bit of a reach. When I look at my big board, let's see where I've got Jarrian Jones. Do I even have him listed? As of this version of my big board, Jarrian Jones is not in the top 100. So let's do this. Let's just go look at corners and see how we can get the best player according to my board. Jarrian Jones not in the top 100 for me. DJ James is sitting in a 67 spot for me. All right. Then you got Brownlee Jr. He's not in the top 100 for me. Cam Hart is not in the top 100 for me. Elijah Jones actually played for Jeff Hafley at Boston College. He's not in the top 100 for me. Kamal Haddon, he is not in the top 100. Josh Newton, I think, is. Josh Newton's sitting at 70 on my big board. Kalen Carson isn't. Yeah, this is pretty easy for me, man. It fits a need. It might be a bit of a reach here to go DJ James. Again, he's the 67th prospect on my board. But the problem is his average draft position is 104, and we're not trading around. So he's probably not going to be there at 126. So if I look at let's just pull up DJ James here. Look at the PFF grades, guys. And listen, I understand PFF isn't everything. I got you. But starting in 2021, a 71.6, 82.3, 83.9. I mean, that is as stable, as steady as it gets. Let's see where he played at, okay? He played outside corner pretty much the majority of the time. 597 snaps, then 705 snaps, then 605 snaps. This is the guy that you're looking to line up opposite of Jair Alexander, or at least at a bare bones minimum, compete with Eric Stokes for that boundary corner, right? That outside corner opposite of Jair Alexander, right? Now, some would say, well, we need us a slot corner. I got you. I agree. It kind of feels like, and from what I heard, I think it was Wildy on Wildy and Tausch the other day was talking about it, that someone in a presser said that Hafley watched the tape and he really liked Keyshawn Nixon as his nickelback. So it doesn't matter what we think. It matters, what are the coaches thinking. I think that's probably going to be the case. I think this works out pretty good. If you take DJ James here, and again, guys, I understand some may disagree with taking him here. I'm going off of my personal board, and according to my board, it's definitely worth it. DJ James, I got him as the 67th best prospect, and I would be getting him at 91 here. I know some people are higher on Jarrian Jones. I completely understand that, right? I got you. Josh Newton, I'm big on Josh Newton where most people aren't. We'll probably be trying to take him here in a minute if we can. We might go back-to-back corner picks here right now and make up for it because he's, like I said, he's in the 70 spot on my board. So let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. We're going DJ James, cornerback out of Auburn. He's 67 on my board. We're going to pull the trigger there. So we got our starting corner, at least going to compete for starting corner opposite Jair Alexander. He's going to be competing with Eric Stokes, Corey Ballantyne, and Carrington Ballantyne. You talk about some competition in that room, man. That would be absolutely awesome. So, yeah. Let's see. R. Shower says Nixon got a premium deal. He'll not be picked for replacement. I kind of agree with that, man. We got an old saying we always talk about, right? That you want to tell me where you want to find out where someone's priorities lie. Check their calendar and check their checkbook. When you check the checkbook, $6 million per on average. They probably think of Keyshawn going to be their slot corner, right? It'd be different if it's $3 or $4 million. It'd be different if a stud slot corner like Cooper DeJean fell to you at 25. Then you kind of say, okay, we got one of the deepest slot rooms in the league now, right? And accept it. So, yeah, but I agree with that. Coach Lynn says, do it, back-to-back DBs. Let's see who's there, man. Let's see if it makes sense from the cornerback position. See if my boy's gone, because I really like Josh Newton as well. There he is. He's still there. Average draft position is 135, so chances are he won't be there later. Let's just take a quick glance around. He's definitely my best corner that's available. I've got him 70 on my big board, okay? So now let's just take a look around the rest of these prospects real quick. Tyrone Tracy is one of my sleepers that I'm really getting excited about. He's currently ranked 113. Look at his average draft position, 174.3, right? That's really cool to me. That I kind of stumbled onto him just the other day. That's the player that I listed in our Patreon chat with the PTA posse. Like, here's my guy, Tyrone Tracy. I think that he's going to start to kind of fly up boards a little bit. It's cool that he's getting drafted so late still on average, though. That's pretty neat. Let's see here. Leonard Taylor. We don't need a defensive lineman, right? If we look at our needs, we're still needing potentially a center of the future. We could use another nickel back to back up, obviously, our boy Keyshawn Nixon. We pretty much got all our starting roles filled other than center. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers move forward like that. So to me, this makes a lot of sense. Let me just take one glance at linebacker, because we will be in the 4-3 a little bit, right? There's Cedric Gray. I've got Cedric Gray in the 66 spot, okay? And then, again, I've got Josh Newton at 70. So Cedric Gray is actually grading out better than Josh Newton. So right now, it would be between Cedric Gray and Josh Newton as far as best player available, with Cedric Gray kind of edging him out, man. You know, that it makes a little more sense than taking Josh Newton here. As much as I like Josh Newton, and I know he's not going to be available later, we know Cedric Gray probably isn't either. I mean, he most definitely isn't. Let's just look at the linebackers and make sure there's someone later that I don't like better. Peyton Wilson's already gone. Junior Colson's gone. Cedric Gray is the best available. Edgerrin Cooper's long gone. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. we drafted. Pretty cool that we drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and we had Cedric Gray ranked significantly higher. Chat, I hate to do it, but I think Cedric Gray makes a little more sense than taking another corner here in Josh Newton. What it comes down to is let's take a quick glance at Josh Newton, and I want to see where he played lined up at. Again, he's pretty steady, 76, 82, 76, played outside corner. So if we were to take, this is kind of how I'm looking at this. If we were to take Josh Newton out of TCU right here with the, what are we at, 126. If we take him, he's probably going to be, he's an outside corner, first of all. He's going to be on the depth chart underneath DJ James, Eric Stokes, probably Corey Ballantyne as well. It's going to take a little while to get him up to speed, you know? So I think it makes all the sense in the world. I'm going to go Cedric Gray here. Cedric Gray, PFF in 2022, 82.2, dipped to 74 last year. He is one of those guys, though, that I could see, you know, remember last year, this might be Jaden Reed this year. Last year, Goody took a player in Jaden Reed that didn't have a really good 2022 season, but he had a good 2021 season. Kind of lines up here with Cedric Gray. It's still a solid year. 74 is your PFF grade in 2023, but in 2022 at 82.2, I think the value's there. And again, my board, that's what it suggests. We're going to stick with the board. We're going linebacker, Cedric Gray. So we got some serious competition for that 4-3 base defense when we are in it. And you know what? Somebody gets banged up. We see it every year. You've seen Devondre Campbell go down with injury. You've seen Quay Walker go down with injury in the last couple of years. It's something that happens, right? Now you got a little bit of depth there for your nickel 4-2-5 at the linebacker position. So, all right, so got us another linebacker. Now we are at pick 169. Okay, Cody in the chat, just to clear this up real quick. He said, early show tonight? No, sir. We're still going live. We're still going live at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. I just wanted to get a quick mock draft in because I had lost my original mock draft, and we wanted to kind of compare that. So we'll kind of recap it later on tonight. But there'll definitely be a show this evening. We got a good one set up for you guys and gals. Appreciate you checking, though, Cody. Thank you so much, man. All right, let's see here. Let's see what Chad Inc. says in the chat. He says, I think if they can get better at the nickel, they're going to take someone, regardless of how they feel about Nixon. You need someone behind him and someone for the future with Nixon having a 3-year deal. It's true, Chad. It's true, man. It is. You got to kind of start with the starting positions first, though, right? Like I said, if we already had our linebacker room completely filled out, I might have tried to comb through and find a backup nickel, but we're kind of stuck with the starting there. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. What do we got? Our boy Tyrone Tracy still on the board. As far as needs, need a couple corners, really just one corner now. Another backup linebacker. Here's the thing that's interesting about offensive line. Zach Tom, if he could kick to center, and the way it's been explained to me, and I've heard other people that's in and around the building talk about it, he's a really good tackle, what they say, Pro Bowl caliber right guard, all pro caliber center, right? So if you were to go with a tackle here, or say, say if you had the right tackle fall to you right here, you could kick Zach Tom to center, and now you fix that problem. It's just I have a hard time believing at 169 someone's going to be able to step in and start at tackle, right? You don't want to do too much shuffling around on that big board either, or on that depth chart either. All right, let's just take a quick gander here. Tyrone Tracy, halfback out of Purdue. You got guard Trevor Keegan. Let's see. I've got guard Trevor Keegan. Where do I got? He's not in my top 100. I'm trying to comb through here for top 100 players. There's Dylan Lobby. Let's see. You got Drake Nugent. He's not one. Let's see. Dylan Johnson, Walter Rouse. Let me look at the tackles. Do we have a Walter Rouse? We do not. All right. Nehemiah Pritchard. He is not in the top 100 on my board. Jalen Simpson, not in the top 100. So I think pretty much everyone on my top 100 has pretty much been taken. So what we'll do is we'll now rely on PFF and kind of ride this thing on out. Okay, so according to them, their best prospect available is Tyrone Tracy. All right, that's a halfback. Then and he's one that I think he played receiver 2 years ago too, guys. So he's got some versatility. Look at that PFF grade. Look at the improvement. 51, 63, 87.5. His elusiveness rating is 163.5. Again, this is quickly becoming my halfback crush here of the draft. Yards after contact, 4.44. Rushing grade, 90.5. Gap grade, 89.8. Zone grade, 80.7. It's rare you get a player that's good at both, in the 80s at both. Right now, obviously, we're more of a zone team, but still grading out in the 80s is pretty impressive. So that's a tough one there. Again, we need a fourth halfback, in my opinion. Right now, you got what? Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and Emmanuel Wilson, right? I think you got to have that fourth back. Emmanuel Wilson can kind of float on and off the practice squad as the year goes on, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to potentially take a halfback there. When you look at needs, though, we still need at least one more corner. We need a couple offensive linemen. Trevor Keegan's making a lot of sense here. So if we go best available right here, and we looked up and said, okay, what do we actually need? We still need a couple of offensive linemen. You're going to need a swing tackle. You're going to need another interior guy to play backup as well there. You're probably going to keep Caleb Jones as your swing tackle right now. Best tackle is Walter Rouse at 171. That'd be a bit of a reach from where we're going. It's really between these three guys right here. Tyrone Tracy, halfback out of Purdue, guard Trevor Keegan out of Michigan, and cornerback Kamal Hayden Kamal Hadden out of Tennessee at cornerback. So for me, I'm gonna make this really, really easy here, man. I'm gonna go with the best player available, and I'm gonna go Tyrone Tracy, halfback out of Purdue. His average draft position is 174.3. Oh man, who would see the field sooner, guys? Would it be Tyrone Tracy or Trevor Keegan? That's the question, right? Now, I'll answer that question here. Coach Lynn says, did Hadden play the slot? Let's take a quick look here. Now, he's more of a corner, just an outside corner, Coach. So that's how that lines up. Who do you think would see the field quicker, guys, in this situation? Our fourth halfback, potentially our third halfback in Tyrone Tracy, or Trevor Keegan, a guard, our backup guard that would be competing with a Sean Ryan. I kind of feel like I could see an argument for both, man. You know what I mean? Because halfbacks get banged up. It happens, right? Let's see. Robert in the chat says Keegan. Coach Lynn says Tracy. You guys ain't helping me now. We're split down the middle here. Let's see. R. Shower says Tracy would be number 2, change of pace back. It's a good point. You don't look at any of our backs other than Josh Jacobs, who supposedly does everything pretty well. You don't look at any of them and go, "Yep, that's your third down. That's your receiving back, right?" Tyrone Tracy would fit that mold. M. Smitty asks a great question: has Keegan ever played center? Let's get an answer to that, bub. Looks like he was left guard his entire career, so he would be kind of your backup guard, one of your backup guards. I'm going to go Tyrone Tracy. He's the best player on the board. I could see us wanting to use him in passing downs. I think I'm going against the chat here. I hope you guys don't take offense to it. It seemed like the majority was saying Keegan, but I'm going to go Tracy here. That's what I'm feeling. All right, so we're going to go halfback, get that off the board there. All right, so we went Tyrone Tracy, halfback out of Purdue. Again, has a lot of receiving experience. Pick 202. Best available. You got Still Chambers there at linebacker. You still could use another linebacker on your roster. Ethan Driscoll. Now you're in the range to say, all right, maybe we need to take us a tackle. Probably do need to take a swing or two on a tackle here, guys. Ethan Driscoll will probably be the pick here because I am, 10 minutes over already. So we're going to fly through the rest of this. I'm going to get our swing tackle right now. I've got us listed as needing at least 2 more offensive linemen if we want to bolster that room and try to improve it. I'm totally cool with cutting Royce Newman. I hate it, Royce. Love you, dude. Love the Kentucky waterfall, the mullet. But I just I feel like we got to do something a little bit not drastic, but we got to be aggressive with offensive line. So I'm going to go Ethan Driscoll here. Frank Gore Jr. would have been a really good pick too, gang. It would have. Again, I'm really high on Frank Gore Jr. I think he's going to be a solid back, even though he's ranked so low. But again, we already made our decision with the halfback. So let's go Ethan Driscoll. Let's take a look. 58, 63, and 67 are the PFF grades. He's gotten better every year. That's something that's important to me. Caden Wallace, 53, 59, 68, same top thing. When you look at the build here, pass block grade is a 74.9. Look at Ethan Driscoll's true pass set pass block grade, 71.6, well above the average there. His zone grade is higher than gap. Ethan Driscoll's my guy. We're going to put him in there in the tackle room and let him compete for that swing tackle position. All right, so we're going to go Ethan Driscoll out of Marshall at offensive line. So we got that one squared away. Now we're on to pick 219. Let's go rapid fire. You got another tackle here, Andrew Coker. You could use another offensive lineman in the room potentially. There's Jalen Ford at linebacker. We still got room for another linebacker. There's center Dylan McMahon. You could potentially use a backup center, but it doesn't feel like you carry a backup center. It's usually a player like Tom that'll fill in a pinch. You don't want to top a roster spot with someone who can only play one position. Obviously, he's played guard on both sides, but last year played a lot of center. I'm going to say no to that. If you look best available, Jalen Ford is kind of intriguing. He's just been up and down with the greats. Let's see. Let's just go best available here. We've only taken one corner. Think about the cornerback room before we take another tackle here. Let's think about the cornerback room for just a second. All right. Coach Lynn cracking me up. He says we still have 3 picks. LOL. I love Goot. I'm telling you, man. So if we looked at the cornerback room, Jair Alexander, right? DJ James, Eric Stokes, Corey Ballantyne, Carrington Valentine. You got 5 outside corners. Keyshawn being the only slot corner, right? You'll probably see them pull the trigger on a safety at some point, which we could use a backup safety right now. And if you find one that can play the slot that makes sense where you're picking, that might be a way to go there. Of course, you're going to be reaching a bit right now. Yeah, I don't want to overthink this too much. Let's go with another tackle. Let's go Andrew Coker out of TCU. All right. So now our offensive line room is pretty much full. You're going to have Sean Ryan backing up Christian Haynes at right guard. You got a couple of extra tackles to kind of swing around there to potentially play swing tackle. Look at Traven Wallace sitting here. Boy, that grabs my attention. Traven Wallace out of Kentucky. So now we're at pick 245. Traven Wallace, let me see exactly where he's at on my big board because he's lower on my board than the 33rd team. The 33rd team really, really like Traven Wallace. They like him a lot. I want to say he's quite a bit lower on my board. Let's see if it matches up. 175. I got him 175 on my board, and we are picking 245. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, United Bates. Good to see you, but we're still going live tonight, pal. This is just a quick little mock draft that was supposed to be 30 minutes that we're already way over on. So I'm going to go with another linebacker. It's still a need. We got to fill out that linebacker room, bolster that up a bit. I'm going to go with the best prospect available. And again, I've got him at 176 on my board. We're getting him at 246. We're going Trayvon Wallace, linebacker out of Kentucky right here. All right, so we grabbed him. Now the linebacker room is completely full, in my opinion. Now we're getting into maybe a potential safety here. We need another backup safety. We don't want to look at either of these quarterbacks or the halfback, right? We already like what we got. Look at these grades. Kenny Logan Jr. from Kansas. Check this out. 76, dip to a 60, and then jump right back up to a 79. Check this out, Coach Lynn. We got 300 snaps in the box, 290 deep, and 128 snaps in the slot. You had 178 snaps in the slot in 2022. This feels right here. If you go Kenny Logan Jr. here, he can be your backup slot corner, or at least compete for it, right? If we were to look at corners like you guys are asking here, if we just took a quick glance at cornerback, you got Jarius Monroe, DeAndre Prince, and Dante Kent. Okay, dang, that's some good numbers right there. Of course, who did he play for? Tulane. So he played for Tulane. Jarius Monroe, 77, 68, 81, and but he's an outside corner. That's the only problem there, right? DeAndre Prince, pretty solid grades, 79, 74, 76. Again, an outside corner. Dante Kent, 65, 67, 74. He's a slot corner. So it's going to come down to Deontay Kent and then safety Kenny Logan Jr. for me. Okay, because each of them can play in the slot. You still need a backup safety too. So which one's best available? That's the question, right? It looks like it's going to be Kenny Logan Jr. So that's who we're going to take. We're going to take safety Kenny Logan Jr. out of Kansas. So we got our backup safety and someone who can fill in and slot in a pinch. So there is your draft, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can make this screen a little bit bigger. Oh, that's way too large. Let's zoom out just a touch here. I'm going to get a screen grab of this. Again, no trading. We couldn't cheat and trade here. Made ourselves stick and pick. This will be my official latest mock draft. We got an A-, fellas. Look at that. I really didn't expect that. We got an A- even with DJ James being a D+ grade and Cedric Gray being a C-, which both were top 100 prospects for me. That's interesting. If they had graded those two guys out the way they were on my board, we probably would have got an A+. I think that's the first A I've got doing these mocks because I really like to trust my board. That is really, really cool right there, man. Really cool. So there it is. That's your mock. Just a quick recap. We'll get out of here. We got defensive lineman Jerzon Newton at 25, safety Tyler Nubin at 41, guard Christian Haynes at 58, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker out of Clemson at 88. At 91, we got cornerback DJ James out of Auburn. At 126, we got linebacker Cedric Gray. At 169, we got halfback Tyrone Tracy. At 202, we got tackle Ethan Driscoll. At 219, we got tackle from TCU, Andrew Coker. At 245, we got linebacker Trayvon Wallace from Kentucky. And at 255, we got safety Kenny Logan Jr. from Kansas, who can also play the slot. So I like that, man. I like it. Not too bad. Not too bad. So, yeah, I agree. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. He says, a solid draft. Can't wait to see how close we are when draft time comes around. I'm telling you, man, that's the fun part, right? That's the real fun part. So let's see. Yeah, so way over. I know I said I was going to keep it to 30 minutes, but I appreciate y'all kind of hanging out in here with me and making it through. You guys know I'm not a big fan of mock drafts, but I wanted to get that information kind of compiled and added in here. I'll go ahead and add it to the list. That way we've got it to look at this evening when we go live for PTA Live at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. So I want to just thank everybody who's hanging out in the chat. You guys and gals were awesome in here. We had a bunch of people. I know we got a bunch of people watching on Twitter right now over on X. You can click on my profile here on Twitter and you'll see a YouTube link. Sometimes the interface is a little bit easier for you guys and gals to chat live when we're on live at YouTube. If you hop over to YouTube, you click on that YouTube link, you can subscribe to the channel right there. And again, just a quick shout out to the newest Patreon members of the PTA Posse. Appreciate them. We got, like I said, Allison, we got Ron Samble, we got Doug Pointer and Joe Stadler. We'll make sure that you all are entered into that contest where we're going to be giving away an autographed Paul Hornung jersey, the Golden Boy. We're going to be giving that away out on draft night for our draft party that we're going to be having live right here on the YouTube channel, on Twitter, on Rumble, all that good stuff. So we're going to be covering the first round. We're actually going to be covering the whole draft all weekend long, but the first round on Thursday night, we're going to be drawing for that autographed Paul Hornung jersey. So make sure if you guys are interested in that, just hop over to Patreon. You can click on the link in the description of this video. You'll see it right at the top, or you can just go to patreon.com and search Packer Fan Total Access. One word, Packer Fan Total Access, and set yourself up there on Patreon. It's a really cool little community too, where we can kind of chat and get ideas for the show and get everybody's feedback. So, all right, we're out. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We will see you tonight. We will see you tonight for PTA Live. Like I said, at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Should have the guys with us. We'll see. They may be date mocking it up, too. You never know with those goons. Hopefully, Emilio's in here, too. I know he was sleeping in this morning in his race car bed. So, you know how it is. Got to get that beauty sleep. So, we'll see you guys tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go, Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.